Hello, my name is Amol Kalyanam, and this is my keystone project. My guiding question is: do religions have fundamental flaws that contradict themselves in human nature? And my thesis is kind of going to be explaining the background. So this is kind of a picture which kind of depicts different religions around the world. And to kind of get into some background, religions play an instrumental part in today's society. They instill a core set of beliefs and principles, and which can be exemplified through social and political institutions. And within a civilization, they can influence the culture, activities, social hierarchy, and so much more. And they're highly influential. Influential systems. But even so, these systems do have their shortcomings historically. And as a result, religions do have shortcomings in the teachings, which can make religions become contradictory to their purpose, or they can prove to be impossible due to contradicting human nature, as is my thesis. So starting with Christianity, Christianity really deals with sin. So it looks at avoiding sin through the guidelines which God established, and oftentimes this results in the glorification of God. And a list of sins according to the Bible is sexual immorality, impurity, debauchery, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, faction, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. But however, according to Dr. Need Burton, a lot of these aspects are just part of human nature, such as humans feel jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, etc. It's inevitable to feel these things, and as a result, it's contradictory for God to say. For God to establish for humans to avoid these sins when it's in their very nature to do so, and trying to reject sinning would be to fundamentally reject human nature. Another contradiction is sin cannot be avoided due to the knowledge of after death being heaven and hell in Christianity. Heaven and hell are kind of non-constants. You don't really know what's going to happen, and as a result, you do have it's in which is and heaven and hell, they represent either being like sanctuary or eternal damnation, and just those concepts subconsciously pressure a person to taking actions to either get into heaven or get into hell, and as a result that taints all actions to become selfish, and as a result selfish action is a sin, and as such it is impossible to avoid sin. So looking at Hinduism and karma, karma is one of the four core beliefs in or values in Hinduism, and it's really looking at what happens to you in the afterlife or in the reincarnation. And really, if you do good actions, you have good karma; bad actions, you have bad karma. And good karma, you have good afterlife, good reincarnations. Bad karma, you have bad afterlife, bad reincarnations. And there's four main faults with this, because karma is based on one's conscious actions, and it should never go away according to but the problem is that it never goes away because it's based on conscious actions, but it still remains consistent throughout reincarnations. That is a contradiction, because reincarnations have no knowledge of their prior life's actions, and as a result, they shouldn't be weighed upon the decisions of their past life, but they are. And the next is that karma can get erased, and that really kind of goes against what karma is really for. The transfer of karma, holy texts have shown that karma can be transferred from one person to another, which really doesn't add up, because karma is accumulation of one person's actions. And the fourth contradiction is karma can be altered by one's ancestors by going through a holy ritual. But once again, karma of one person isn't supposed to be altered by the actions of another. And now looking at Buddhism, it has four core teachings, and these four teachings really revolve around suffering. And the two I want to point out here right now are the first, which is basically saying suffering is a natural part of life, and it's always going to be present. And the third, which is essentially saying that suffering can be overcome by letting go of the material world, by following through the Eightfold Path, which is shown in the fourth Noble Truth, which you can read here. But the three main contradictions here is that the first is the teachings are focused on how one should act in the present, but they stem from how Siddhartha, or the Buddha, kind of laid out these practices thousands of years ago. But the problem is people can't live and decide how they should live now based on how someone said they should live thousands of years ago. Inherent contradiction. And then the second is that the first contradiction inherently is against the third. Suffering is a natural part of life, and as a result, in today's status quo, it's impossible to let go of all things, all attachments to the material world, and as a result, it's impossible to get rid of suffering. But the larger contradiction is the end goal of Buddhism is to achieve enlightenment, which is supposed to be achievable through the Four Noble Truths, or following these properly. But it's actually contrary. Suffering can make you more self-aware of yourself and of the world around you, and as a result, you can achieve a better understanding of the world and yourself through experiencing suffering. So this is my works cited, and to conclude, many of the religions, and even the most prominent religions today, do have inherent contradictions to themselves and human nature, as was just shown. So in essence, yes, they do have contradictions.